Hello everyone. So today we will going to discuss about Gulliver's Travel. So let's first give a simple definition or introduction about Gulliver's Travel story. So Gulliver's Travel by Jonathan Swift was originally published as a novel in 726. The chapbook version was released later on between 1854 and 1873. Gulliver's traveled far about anonymously in 720 as travels into several remote nations of the world. Satirical work by Anglo-Irish author Jonathan Swift published a keystone of English literature. It is one of the books that contributed to the emergence of the novel as a literary form in English, a parody of the then popular travel narrative. Gulliver's Travel combines adventure with savage satire, mocking English customs and politics of the day.
Hello, today we will be reading a story entitled Gulliver's Travels. When the ship Gulliver is traveling on is destroyed in a storm, Gulliver ends up on the island of Lilliput, where he awakes to find that he was being captured by Lilliputians, a very small people approximately 6 inches in height. Gulliver is treated with compassion and concern. In return, he helps them solve some of their problems, especially their conflict with their enemy. Blefusco, an island across the bay from them. Gulliver falls from favor, however, because he refuses to support the emperor's desire to enslave the Blefuscudians and because he makes water to put out a palace fire. Gulliver flees to Blefusco, where he converts a large warship to his own use and sets sail from Blefusco, eventually to be rescued at sea by an English merchant ship and returned to his home in England. As he travels as a ship surgeon, Gulliver and a small crew are sent to find water on an island. Instead, they encounter a land of giants. As the crew flees, Gulliver is left behind and captured. Gulliver's captor, a farmer, takes him to the farmer's home where Gulliver is treated kindly but of course curiously. The farmer assigns his daughter, Glumdalclitch, to be Gulliver's keeper, and she cares for Gulliver with great compassion. The farmer takes Gulliver on a tour across the countryside, displaying him to onlookers. Eventually, the farmer sells Gulliver to the queen. At court, Gulliver meets the king, and the two spend many sessions discussing the customs and behaviors of Gulliver's country. In many cases, the king is shocked and chagrined by the selfishness and pettiness that he hears Gulliver describe. Gulliver, on the other hand, defends England. One day on the beach, as Gulliver looks longingly at the sea from his box, he is snatched by an eagle and eventually dropped into the sea. A passing ship spots the floating chest and rescues Gulliver, eventually returning him to England and his family.
Gulliver's Third Voyage. Gulliver is on a ship bound for the Levant. After arriving, Gulliver is assigned captain of a sloop to visit nearby islands and establish trade. On this trip, pirates attack the sloop and place Gulliver in a small boat to fend for himself. While drifting at the sea, Gulliver discovers a flying island. While on the flying island called Laputa, Gulliver meets several inhabitants, including the king. All are preoccupied with things and associated with mathematics and music. In addition, astronomers use the laws of magnetism to move the island up, down, forward, backward, and sideways, thus controlling the island's movement in relation to the island below. While in this land, Gulliver visits Balnibarbi, the island of Glubdubdrib and Lugnag. Gulliver finally arrives in Japan, where he meets the Japanese emperor. From there, he goes to Amsterdam and eventually home to England. Gulliver's Fourth Voyage. While Gulliver is a captain of merchant ship bound for Barbados and the Leeward Island, Several of his crew become ill and die on the voyage. Gulliver hires several replacement sailors in Barbados. These replacements turn out to be pirates who convince the other crew members to mutiny. As a result, Gulliver is deposited on a strand or an island to fend for himself. Almost immediately, he is discovered by a herd of ugly, despicable human like creatures who are called, he later learns, Yahoos. They attack him by climbing trees and defecating on him. He is saved by the disgrace by the appearance of a horse identified he later learns by the name Hoimnim or Hoimnum. The Grey Horse takes Gulliver to his home, where he is introduced to the Grey's mare or his wife, a colt and a foal or his children, and a sorrel nag or the servant. Gulliver also sees the Yahoos are kept in pens away from the house. It becomes immediately clear that except for Gulliver's clothing, he and the Yahoos are the same animal. From this point on, Gulliver and his master, the Grey, begin a series of discussions about the evolution of Yahoos, about topics, concepts, and behaviors related to the Yahoo society, which Gulliver represents, and about the society of Houyhnhnms. Despite his favored treatment in the Grey Steed home, the kingdom's assembly determines that Gulliver is a Yahoo and must either live with the uncivilized Yahoos or return to his own world. With great sadness, Gulliver takes his leave of Houyhnhnms. He builds a canoe and sails to a nearby island where he is eventually found hiding by a crew from a Portuguese ship. This ship's captain returned to Gulliver to Lisbon, where he lives in the captain's home. Gulliver is so repelled by the sight and smell of these civilized Yahoos that he can't stand to be around them. Eventually, however, Gulliver agrees to return to his family in England. Upon his arrival, he is repelled by his Yahoo family, so he buys two horses and spends most of his days caring for and conversing with horses in the stable in order to be as far away from his Yahoo family as possible.
Let's now move on to the analysis and adaptation of this story. Considered Swift's masterpiece, Gulliver's Travels is the most brilliant as well as the most bitter and controversial of his satires. Written in a matter of fact style and with an air of sober reality, the work defeats over simple explanations. Is it essentially comic or is it a misanthropic depreciation of humankind? Swift certainly seems to use the various races and societies Gulliver encounters in his travels to satirize many of the errors, follies, and frailties that human beings are prone to. The warlike, disputatious, but essentially trivial Lilliputians in the first section and the deranged, impractical pedants and intellectual in the third segment are shown as imbalanced beings lacking common sense and even decency. The Houyhnhnms, by contrast, are the epitome of reason and virtuous simplicity. However, Gulliver's own proud identification with these horses and his subsequent disdain for his fellow humans indicates that he too has become imbalanced and that human beings are simply incapable of aspiring to the virtuous rationality that Gulliver has glimpsed. Gulliver's Travels proved so popular upon its publication that several reprints, each with minor changes in text, were published with a few months. A new edition was released in 1735 that included allegory not found in the 1726 versions. This edition is generally, though not universally, regarded as the most as the more authentic version. Though there has been debate and controversy as to the objects of Swift's satire and the allegorical meaning of the book. In particular,
In the latter two adventures, the popularity of the work has never been in doubt. Its enduring appeal is such that several terms from the book entered common lexicon. Perhaps most notable is Yahoo, which widely means a crass or stupid person. Film adaptations of Gulliver's Travels have tended to focus on the first two stories. They included an animated film in 1939 produced by the Fleischer Brothers, a 1977 partially animated musical version starring Richard Harris as Gulliver, and a 2010 family comedy featuring Jack Black in the lead role. In addition, a two-part television movie starring Ted Danson was released in 1996.